Okay, so my artist I'm going to be talking about is James Blake. James Blake is a producer, singer, and songwriter who became known for his unique style that incorporates gently sung R&B vocals, deep bass, and the minimal rhythm elements of dubstep. James Blake achieved worldwide fame following his self-titled 2011 album. His popularity grew in momentum over the past years, and he has collaborated with pop icons such as Beyoncé, Kendrick Lamar, and Bon Iver. His second album, Overgrown, released in 2013, gained him the prestigious Mercury Prize and a lot of commercial success with high chart placings. So what is his sound? James Blake is known for his minimalism and his use of silence in his tracks. He uses subtraction, which means he takes a lot of layers out of his music towards the end, creating a very skeletal sound. He falls into a new genre called post-dub. Post-dub uses the basic idea and sound of dubstep and takes it in a new direction, often making it more experimental and mixing it with elements of electronic dance music, hip-hop, and trip-hop. Other examples within this post-dub genre are Chet Faker, Mount Kimby, and Jamie XX. So this is a clip. Hopefully it will load. Your little box anyway. Wait. Why isn't the clip loading? Here we go. This is him playing live, and you can see him using a loop pedal and the various instruments he uses, which I'll go on to explain in a bit. Don't tell me it's unavailable. What? Should I find it on YouTube then?
Yeah. Good.
Okay. So yeah, you get the idea of that. I'll go back to the presentation now. It will let me. It's doing the weird tab thing at the top again. Luckily, that's the only video I've got. So. Okay, right. His use of technology in live performance. James Blake relies on technology fully in both his live and recorded performances to create his iconic sound. When performing live, James Blake accompanies his voice with warm synths, punchy drums, and intimate piano sounds. For his live performances, the Prophet 08 creates his main synth sounds, and his Nord Piano 2 creates his piano sound. James Blake also uses the Boss RC50 loop pedal to loop his voice in some of the songs, like the one in the example I showed you. So looking at his instruments, the Prophet 08. The Prophet 08 is a powerful modern polysynth perfect for thick oscillating sounds. Although the Prophet 08 allows for some really deep programming, James Blake mostly uses simple patches that take advantage of the Prophet's fantastic sounding analog oscillators. The basic patch James Blake uses is detuned sawtooth waveforms played through an envelope-controlled filter with median attack. The Nord Piano 2. The Nord Piano 2 lets you play, split, and layer sounds from both the Nord Piano library and the Nord sample library, and features a versatile effects section. All the sounds have been recorded using state-of-the-art sampling techniques to capture the extraordinary nuances and unique characters of source instruments. For example, it can recreate the mechanical sounds of lifting and releasing a dampener mechanism, producing the characteristic thump and sizzle sounds of a real piano pedal. The Boss RC50 loop pedal. The RC50 is a big pedal, in fact it's basically a pedal board onto itself. It weighs in around 6 pounds and is almost 19 inches wide. The unit has 7-foot switches and allows you to simultaneously play up to 3 stereo tracks. Each of these tracks can also contain multiple overdubs. The RC50 can record any instrument, including the human voice, and has a vast array of input and output ports to facilitate and allow wild experimentation. And then James Blake's recorded music. James Blake's sound palette doesn't change much in his recorded music compared to his live. His intimate piano tone is achieved by using close mic'd-up piano recordings, darker tones, lower dynamics, as well as certain reverbs and compression effects. The main equipment he uses are the Prophet 08, a Nord Piano 2, Clavier Nord Wave, and a Moog miniature. So about the Clavier Nord Wave. The Nord Wave gives you traditional analog sounds that interact and coexist with pretty much anything you want, combining analog FM synthesis, wavetable, and sampled waveforms. You can use literally any standard audio file as a sound source. It is a great sample player and analog synthesizer. It has 2 oscillators capable of producing a vast array of sounds from classic analog waveforms, FM synthesis, wavetables, sampled waves, as well as noise and other miscellaneous waveforms. With oscillator modulation, you can transfer the character of one sound to the other, for instance, a sampled string to an analog square. By controlling the amount of modulation, the effect can range from very subtle to extremely aggressive, so that the original waveforms are no longer recognizable. Within moments, you'll experience unique sounds never heard before. The Moog miniature. The miniature is a compact subharmonic bass machine designed to effortlessly integrate into any performance and computer-based music solution. What DAW does James Blake use? James Blake is known to use Logic Pro X as his DAW of choice. He has always been a Logic user and is even featured on an Apple commercial. And the audio interface he uses is the Apogee, and it is the Symphony IOMK11. Apogee's audio interfaces are compatible with Mac, and there are a lot of professionals who use them. This is a large audio interface that can catch any sound or instrument and provides clear highs, dense mids, and lows. So what could go wrong in a live performance involving music technology? Well, firstly, loop pedals. A lot can go wrong with loop pedals, especially during live performances. James Blake often loops his vocals, so timing and pitching is key. If he gets either of these things wrong, the whole atmosphere of his set would be ruined. James Blake's sparseness in his songs also doesn't allow for anything to hide. There are often exposed vocal loops, so if they were to go wrong, it would be really noticeable. How do you prevent these things going wrong when using a loop pedal? It's really important to practice. So rehearsing your loop pedal at home before taking it out is really crucial. You need to get familiar with all the functions and be comfortable with it. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. It's important to have a backup plan and know how to access the stop function. If everything all else fails and fading your loop out gracefully isn't going to work, the stop will sort of fix the problem too. If you make a mistake while layering a loop, erase that layer and either try again or move on to something else. It is important to not labour over a part unless you're doing a perfect sound-alike cover of a famous song. You'll probably be the only person noticing that a layer is missing. If you use pre-recorded loops, always have the loops backup. For some loopers, they use SD cards and others have USB ports. So it's important, whatever system you use, to always bring a backup to performances in case your looper's internal memory disappears. If your performance relies heavily on looping, having a second loop either in line or close by is a good idea. Failures happen and it's good to be adaptable in these situations. What else could go wrong in a live performance involving music technology? Analog synths can go out of tune. However, digital synths and virtual analogs and wavetable synths do not. What causes a synth to go out of tune? The slight drift in tuning that occurs in analog synths is what gives them the character that people can't seem to emulate with other synth softwares. And it is why so many people spend a lot of money for the vintage sound of a synthesizer. The drift occurs due to a range of factors within the circuitry of the synthesizer. This may include tuning drifts as analog circuits get warmer or colder, tuning drifts as electromagnetic interference fluctuates, and tuning drifts as circuit elements age. So basically, the temperature, electrical interferences within the circuitry of the synth, or either the synth getting old. A synth may also sound a bit out of tune at a high or low octave when it sounds in tune in the middle octave of the range. This is due to something known as limited calibrated range. What is meant by this? Most oscillators on an analog synthesizer will have a calibrated range. In basic terms, this means that the further you go up or down octaves from the notes that you tune, the more out of tune the synth will become. And how to prevent this from happening. There isn't much you can do to stop your synth from going out of tune. The key with any vintage analog synth is to give it a good amount of time to warm up once you turn it on and before you start playing. This can take a while for some synths, as much as 30 minutes, for it to settle down and be more or less in tune. Generally speaking, the older the synth, the longer it will take to warm up. For speed, avoid storing a synthesizer in a cold room, and if you have no choice, then allow it to come back to room temperature before you have to turn it on. What can I take away from James Blake's use of music technology that I can apply in my own music? Watching videos of James Blake performing live has inspired me to be more experimental with my own live performances. My own genre is equally emotional and moody, and I thought having lots of technology and different sounds other than vocal and piano would detract from that. However, I love how James Blake switches instruments halfway through a performance to build a strong chorus section. For example, playing a soft piano sound for verses and switching it to a big powerful synth sound when the chorus kicks in. I also like the idea of experimenting with a vocal loop pedal to add some harmony or backing vocals to my song to create more texture. Cool.